Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court and CPS issues. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie, and to honor alienated parents on International Parental Alienation Awareness Day, Epiphany Awaits is offering a faith-based retreat for alienated parents with both in-person and Zoom option on April 23rd through the 25th, 2021 at the Resolution Center in Jacksonville, Florida. It's a weekend of support for the journey with speakers including Dr. Mark Roseman and other professionals focused on guidance, friendship, and compassion. It's free on Sunday the 25th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via Zoom and is available for purchase after that date for $24.99. Scholarships are available and email requests for application and registration form to epiphaniesawait@gmail.com. That's EPIPHANIESAWAIT@gmail.com. And I've got a very special guest, friend of mine, Kristine A. Smith, also known as Krissy Smith, is the loving daughter of Fred and Mary Ellen Smith. She is also the mother of 3 of their teenage grandchildren. Krissy Smith has long alleged both on social media and to the FBI, local police, Pennsylvania State Police, Chester County Sheriff, and District Attorney that her parents lied about her to psychiatrists and therapists in order to have a diagnosis of mental illness applied to her in order to justify continuing their pattern and practice of parent-child bond obstruction. Kristine will try to explain how much we don't know about the complexities of what we call parental alienation and what really causes it. She will pose the hypothesis that parental alienation is possibly caused or worsened by the family court policies that are profit motive driven. And I think that's for sure. Christina is a star producer and ambassador for Erasing Family Documentary, a nonprofit feature film endorsed by the American Psychological Association. She's an advocate for shared parenting and family reunification. Also, she has written a book about it's in Jamil Hassan's book, Blockchain Ethics, Chapter 4, Cracking the Glass Ceiling, about her passionate opposition to predatory capitalistic policies that shred families for money. Jamil also details a story of how Krissy made money on cryptocurrency to donate to Ginger Gentile, the director of Erasing Dad and Erasing Family social impact documentaries. In 2019, she was a subject of social justice documentarian Marykate Santalucia short biography, Krissy Smith in 5 minutes. Krissy came out in that piece as a wonderful and proud voice for the Psychiatric Survivor and the Free Britney movements. And that's hashtag Free Britney. Krissy has also written an amicus brief for Mary Bush that was rejected by the United States Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit. Kristine Smith, on behalf of parents' right to companionship of his or her children, are so fundamental as to be guaranteed protection under the First, 9th, and 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution.
That's good.
You
Yeah.
good? Is that good?
That's it.
Okay. And good evening. How are you doing?
So glad. And then I was just thinking, everyone, we met when your book came out. And as soon as I saw your book, I started promoting it. And you got some backlash from the fathers groups being, I don't know. And it was kind of like a watershed moment when the fathers and the moms kind of came together and realized we're really fighting judicial corruption. I mean, I'm just so grateful about your book. Do you want to talk a minute about your book?
Well, I was glad to meet you at that time because they were saying that, well, this is a woman. Of course, this is a woman. They're going to have sympathy and pity for the woman. But I'm saying this is happening to everybody. This is not a gender biased thing. This is happening to all of us. And we all should stick together and fight this corruption.
And then you do realize, like, some people, I'm a recovering narcissist, and you do see that some people, the groups in the movement, they come more possessive of their personality and their group than us all working together to get the job done. And that's why I'm so grateful for your platform, because you interview everybody from all pieces of our movement, because it's not just parents in family court that have money to fight. It's the foster kids taking away. And it's Mary Bush with her mom, her older mom. They said she had Alzheimer's and put her mother away. So it's more, representing everybody, and you get everybody on your show.
Yeah, I want it to be very well rounded, and so people can learn and be educated about things they maybe never heard of or know of.
Right. And your guest the other day, Andrew Faulkner, I had met him a couple of years back because I'd seen his videos when he was 15, when he'd recently lost his brother to his stepmother's alienation tactics. And just the way he educated himself from age 12 in psychology. And you guys got so depth in some of the psychology of alienation, I just felt like my hand was raised listening to you guys talk, because, his perspective's different from mine. And I think he doesn't see how much the chaos and the confusion is caused by these attorneys and judges. Because in his situation, his mother was in another country, where he couldn't see the purposeful tactics of creating this gaslighting or destroying someone's credibility or personality or job or social relationships with school or church, and how it is purposeful and it's not just. But I love when he said, ignorance is no excuse. These judges, there's no excuse for them to be ignorant, making life and death decisions.
Yeah, it's a lot of people don't realize this. I wish I could go back to a normal life where none of this ever happened, and it's not going to happen. But I liked it when he quoted Game of Thrones, and he said that the lions don't care about the opinions of sheep, and that's kind of how these judges are.
But here's the thing. It's one of those things where they don't understand when parents have nothing to lose and start representing them pro se, and we start joining together and helping each other. And there's such a community that I've seen grow, because I lost my children in September 2019. And just to back it up, I want everyone to know, my husband went to the police station, demanded a well check to check on the children. A policeman came to my house, and I said I bought my house in cash, and I had a purple love seat in the kitchen, and he said I was a narcissist, and I had couches in the kitchen, and my kids got taken away because of this policeman's diagnosis. And I didn't get the police report released for 3 years because the police, they kept covering it up, and then finally it was released, and I saw the divorce attorney working with them. I asked for the police officer's psychological training that he could diagnose me as a histrionic narcissist, and he had no training. So my children are based away on just these allegations of mental illness, when I was handing the policeman my psychiatrist diagnosis saying I had ADHD, I talked too fast, I considered myself, I was getting out of a relationship that I felt, coercively controlled in. And that's what they're missing. They're missing, abuse is by controlling someone economically. And that's where we have to embrace the dads, because so many of these dads are trapped in relationships because the women will say, if you leave me, you'll never see your children again. And with the ways are with these, what it costs for a child support, even nurses end up in jail. Right, Mary Ann?
Yes, they do. Yes.
So maybe you're plug in there, because everyone hasn't read your book. Maybe you should explain how, what's happening to you usually happens to dads, and that's why you're such a voice for dads,
Well, see, the thing is, these judges come up with this figure of your earning capacity and what they think it should be based on your earning capacity, we'll say 3 years ago. And then they go along with it, and they don't let it go. They're like a pit bull with that figure. And if you can't meet it and you can't pay it, then they start harassing you with non-support hearings, contempt hearings. It just gets crazy. And then they put you in jail, but it's really prison. I only spent 5 days in there because I was not getting proper care. But the judge wanted me in there for 2 months or pay $2,000. So would you believe they extorted out of my 79-year-old father $2,000 to get me out of there?
I see, and this goes right along with, I read this amicus brief for Mary Bush, because these judges who have immunity work with the local police who are basically their goons. And I even had a woman so Mary Bush got tackled by a policeman, and this was back in 2016. The policeman's up in July for this, and she has fought this. It took her 5 years to get this up in front, and they tackled her because she wanted to see her mom in a nursing home. That Mary Bush had to pay a sheriff to guard her when she visited her mom every month, because she was considered like a danger to steal her mother.
How
And her
sad.
mother was put in based on false allegations of Alzheimer's, when really her brother digitally penetrated her mother, and Judge Catherine Platt, who, I'm sorry if she's dying of cancer right now, but regardless of that, she's destroyed my life and Mary Bush's life, where she put Mary Bush's mom in a nursing home, where Mary Bush is watching, skin cancer grow on her mother every month in her 1 monthly Zoom call. She's watching the skin cancer on her mother. I mean, and it's just like that movie called I Care a Lot. Mary Bush, they called her and interviewed her on that, and she thinks a lot of that story was her, because the woman that locked her mom up was also a lesbian. But and Mary Bush, like, wow, she is a hero, and she introduced me to Juliet Fairley, who has written articles about both of us. And Juliet is really a strong voice for judicial immunity and that kind of thing. And she writes a lot because her father, I think, may have had a bad time in a nursing home too. But a lot of this movie Framing Britney, I really want to mention that right now Britney Spears' mom just stood up for Britney and is demanding $200,000 back from one of her attorneys that just spent $200,000 doing a tour trying to say that Jamie's dad's a good guy. And they said she's not representing, Britney's interest at all. And I had 7 divorce attorneys, and I'm taking 5 of them to the state Supreme Court. They're being looked at for, not working in my best interest, and they're looking at returning my money. But it's like they didn't not just work in my best interest. They propagated a narrative that I was mentally ill and incompetent. Like, you would fire an attorney and they'd say, the breakdown of communication, and allude to you being, it's just like what happened in St. Louis. And everyone has to look that in February in St. Louis, 31 judges had to recuse themselves. And it's shown that they're using these, mental illness diagnosis in psychological warfare to remove children from parents to create profit. And I know it sounds like a mouthful, but I'm getting used to saying that.
You're right, because that happened to me as well. We had a nutty caseworker come into my house, and she trumped up this diagnosis that I was mentally ill. Now, she didn't have a PhD or a psychology degree, but then that carried over into the court system. And then you've got a judge. She's telling the judge all of this. And it was just a big mess. And then these judges believe these people that have a low-level education to remove your children.
See, and the judges believing them, that's called willful ignorance, because the Judge Catherine Platt, the one that is watching, me not have my children now for 6 years, she was on the Pennsylvania Changing the Culture Committee. We paid $50 million. They spent 50 working days coming up with how do we change the culture of custody. And they said, oh, it's a mess. And they figured out how to fix it. And they threw it in a drawer. We've already paid for the solution. They know what they're doing. One of the biggest things is, one family, one judge. Every time I go over there, I'm in front of somebody new who doesn't know anything, so that they can, feign ignorance. But this time I caught them, because when I went in front, this time I represented myself in October, and my son, who's 18, wrote a note saying, these are lies. We're not being bullied at school because my mother's part of this documentary. I've never heard my mother mocked. He wrote that there were lies. And I went to Keith Bogus, who had a 15-year-old daughter like mine. He's an educator in the past. He's a conciliator. He'd never seen my case before. I had an affidavit explaining all kinds of things. He put a gag order on me. And I got up in front of him and said, my dad is a white supremacist. This is happening because my dad's lies. And my husband and his attorney were silent, because they know that how this is going down. That Keith Bogus, he put a gag order on me when nobody asked him to. He did it out of his own volition, because I put a complaint in on my husband's divorce attorney last year and said she was trying to silence me. So she hasn't tried to silence me since. And the fact that he would silence me out of the blue, when the last time I was in court, I put my own seal on my custody order. So all my divorce files in Chester County Courthouse are sealed. If anyone leaks my divorce files, it's me or the father of my children. I
Mhm.
mean, if it's them, you know, anybody besides us. So for them to put a gag order on me when I don't even mention my children, there's no photo of my children. My husband's an amazing man who has a communication disorder where we need help, like with a parenting coordinator. But it's just like one of these things where the conflict was all created by the attorneys creating miscommunication on purpose. It's going to come out after these 5 divorce attorneys go, because I've got their memos where they're working together to put me in insane asylums.
Mhm.
And they just wrote it in their own notes. And no one wants to hire an attorney that wants going to put them in an insane asylum. Why am I paying my own attorney
Mhm.
to lock me away and drug me on drugs when I'm terrified of that? You know, I'm a biology geologist that thinks psychiatry is a cult. And they're telling me, you know, you're hyper religious. Oh, you're an atheist. And they're making up these disorders based on groups of behaviors. And they're saying things are diseases and telling me I have a cancer of the brain because I want to leave a man that hasn't told me he's loved me in a decade. And I'm just like, hold on a second. I was raised Catholic and then I lived among the Mormons, and that's a cult and that's a cult. And whoa, psychiatry is a cult. It really is. That DSM-5, that is like a voodoo book. That is a made up book. It's not scientific. That's why research isn't based on it. The National Institute of Mental Health won't pay for any research based on those classifications. They're
Mhm.
classifying emotions into disorders instead of classifying emotions and saying, that was a traumatic experience. How can we help you?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very and then
And you
they
had to disable yourself. This cord, the process that they went through disabled you, and you're so capable, but it's like mentally, and that's what they're going to do to me. I'm going to wind up saying I'm disabled too. And because why? Because if they want me to be so much, give me the money. And I had
Mhm.
attorneys look me in the face and say, repeat after me, you're bipolar. I have been fighting since the day they said I was mentally ill. I'm saying I'm not mentally ill. And I'm
Mhm.
about to give up because it is just not even worth not being crazy.
That's sad. I mean,
Well, you're
the way they
crazy.
treat
You are, right? You get your, I mean, they did it to
yeah.
you. They labeled you so long, you finally said, give me the money. I mean, right?
Well, also a heart attack didn't help. Uh,
Oh my gosh. Yeah. But the emotional trauma for you went, I
oh
mean, you were
yeah.
tortured for years because here's what I want to tell people. And you had that wonderful guest on. And what was her name? The hero of Michigan, that amazing woman who you were talking to who gave me the Michigan torture laws.
Oh, Dina?
Yes. Yes, Deanna. Give her a shout out. Tell
Yeah,
us.
Dina Klustra.
Ooh, she's good. So Deanna Klusta showed me that actually these games that they're playing, you know how I mean, they're causing people to have heart attacks in the family court. You said that
Oh
on one of your
yes.
past talks.
Right.
And Mary Bush, when Mary Bush, I was a witness for her when this Judge Platt threatened to financially ruin her if she doesn't stop her frivolous pursuits of trying to save her mother's life.
Mm.
And Mary Bush had a stroke the week after, and I had to go to
Oh,
the doctor with her. Like they are literally causing like deadly stress.
yes.
Yeah, when they're forcing you to, like, you know, and for me it's hard because my son turned 18 and he just got released all my medical and all his medical records, all his educational records I just got. So I have complaints in at the school district, and the school district tells me, oh, we didn't do anything wrong, but now I have all these records that just show so much impropriety that it's like, and then they say if you talk about it, you get a misdemeanor. And I'm sitting here debating, like, really? Because this principal called the cops, lied about me in a police report. But if I release that police report, that's not a misdemeanor. But if I release the complaint, I guess it is. I don't know. It's just so funny how, like, who has immunity in our society and who doesn't. And we're both in Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
So, and we've both had issues with school districts. And I was wondering, maybe you could like explain, remember that thing where your son had something, players, and they were saying that your mom was crazy and it spread in the high school? Because they did the same thing to me. Like the administration in my kids' high school shames my kids and makes my kids think I'm crazy. Not the oldest one, but the middle one. They got to one of my kids, but not the other. And what happened to your kid? There was something that
Oh,
the administration, what was that? I forgot the
well,
story.
it was a class for like seniors, I guess, some media class. And apparently my son thought it would be a good idea to put my mugshot up and underneath it put insane woman terrorizes ex-husband and child. And it was on Facebook on somebody else's page, but it got taken down right away. But however, there were 4 shares. There was at least 15 likes, laughs, and hearts. And I'm thinking, who thinks this is funny? And I'm sure his father put him up to it. I'm not stupid. I'm
Well,
sure.
no, I really think a lot of it is tribal. Like, I think it gets out of the hands of the one person, and the community decides we're picking this parent over that parent, because I was
Mhm.
shunned from entire communities. And my husband is a really soft-spoken man who, it was just enough. Like, once you don't have your kids, people assume the worst even.
Mhm. Mhm.
Or it's that sensation, like, I just feel like, like my middle kid that I don't have a relationship with now, that he was embarrassed at the school for me, because the school had 4 suicides, and I'm very anti-psychiatry. And there was one girl who the mom said, we put her on so medications, she just gave up and killed herself. And that article was in the paper. And then the principal spread the rumor that I said that this other kid died from overdose and the parents were drugging him, which I never would. I don't even know how that child died. It was my son's friend. And I was talking about something that was known in the paper. But they kind of slandered me like I was accusing a family of killing a child. And they did that. And even in the police report, the principal says he assumes that I'm upset about this and I think this. How can he be assuming? How I'm thinking parents are killing their kid. Like it's like, and the fact that he can put that in a police report that winds up at the court, and then I don't get my kids a whole other year because somebody's assuming something and calling the cops on me. And he
Mhm.
called the police on me because I called the school because my son's friend committed suicide, and I asked if I could talk to the counselor, because when they court ordered me to go for a psychiatric review, I don't know how that psychiatrist was picked, but she said my son had ADHD and depression, even though she never met my son. So I was calling the school saying, you've had 4 suicides. I know you're interviewing all the kids. My kids are probably going to come with some ACE trauma since their mother was removed. Before you start thinking my kid has ADHD and depression, can you look at Jody Kniff's report, the school psychologist, on him? Because she tested him not to have it. So even though his dad and his dad's attorney are giving him these diagnoses that are fake, why don't you go with yours?
Mhm.
They literally called the cops on me for wanting to talk to my son's counselor.
Yeah, the school districts, I find, they don't want anything to do with you if you're a non-custodial parent. They think
Well,
you're pariah.
see, and I worked in the school district. I was the principal's secretary, and I'll tell you, if you're a non-custodial parent, a little red flashing screen comes on, and they all look around, and they're ready to press the freaking button for the cops. Yeah, no, if
Mhm.
you're a non-custodial parent, they're terrified of you.
Well, another incident was that, this was at a country club, and my son was getting an award, so he wanted me to be there. But,
Aw.
his father and, his wife were talking to the principal, and I just walked up there and I said, "Hey, am I missing anything?" I was just, "Hey, am I missing anything?" So he talked to me for a little bit, and then he brushed me off, and then he says to my ex, he says, "I'm sorry, we were talking about what?" And I thought, "How rude. How rude is that?"
Well, what happened to me is crazy is my husband told the school that I was crazy and didn't tell me. And since I was a mom at the elementary school in charge of the $7,000 assembly budget and volunteering there like 3 to 4 days a week in the art class, I noticed a difference the way the principal was towards me. And I started accusing people, like, who's talking to him about my divorce? And my husband, everybody denied it. I found out 3 months later from the counselor, yeah, he told everyone you have bipolar. Are you okay? And I'm like, I don't have bipolar.
Oh, man.
He has autism, and now I don't believe in that I think autism, I have to take a break here. Autism is really caused by formula, lack of contact, and then the chronic constipation and the miralax, and not all of it, because autism, like anything, is a cluster of behavioral symptoms that could come from a lot of different biological reasons. But they are finding that probiotics are really helping with autism, and they're also finding out probiotics are really helping with mania. So I'm
Hmm.
just saying that, like, the FDA will not test probiotics because they say that that's not, there's supplements they won't do. But my son, when he went on formula when he was 2 months old, was chronically constipated then for like a decade. And then he was put on Miralax after the formula. And it's just one of these things where I just got my son's medical records. I just got like 7 years of medical records, right?
Mhm.
And I'm combing through. And here's my son who's gifted with a 135 IQ. after he loses his mom, no more giftedness, he's just autistic. They keep him on Miralax for years, even though I'm telling his dad it's poison, take it off, because now they show that Miralax causes autism. Miralax causes neuropsychiatric disorders. It's right on it, and nobody's paying attention. It's kind of like, and my son, he says, well, they say it's the vaccines too. And I'm like, yeah, that's the false flag. Wake up. It's the formula. And like, why is America the only country that says breast isn't better than formula?
Mm.
Like they're saying because breast milk's attached to an actual mom. I just absolutely, this country, it's run by big pharma. It's like the whole thing. And if you really look into psychiatry, psychiatric diagnoses are used as political devices. They're not real diagnosis. It's been proven for a long time, and the only reason we're ignoring it is big pharma has such an amazing commercial campaign. And I also want to stress this whole bipolar thing. It's been targeting women for a long time. All of the bipolar research is on white women, 80%, women 90%. I've been seeing more and more commercials where they are targeting like these light-skinned women with a white husband and making her drugged, or these African-American sisters. They're targeting psychiatry. They're saying that the Native American population and Asian population are underserved. They're not underserved. And they're saying like the Native Americans aren't using the terms major depression. They're trying to export mental illness to other places in the world. We have to literally, and the way to get rid of this whole psychiatry is believe in God if you need to. Because what they're doing, and we talked about this the other day, like someone with a narcissistic personality disorder, they'll say they can never change. And if you're going to say people don't have free will, then basically, then that's a godless society. And Lord knows we're American and we can't be godless. Okay, I'm one of those people that believes in God like 3 to 16% of the time. But I'm a scientist, and I worked it out with God, and he said that's fine, because he kind of wants me to question things. So I think everyone's relationship with God is really personal. Like, do you believe in God 100% of the time, Mary Ann, or 0? Is it one or the other, really, for you personally?
Well, I believe in God 100%.
You do? You're lucky. I do question. But God isn't going to send me to hell for that. You know what I mean? Yeah, he's like, that's okay.
Well, God gave man free will, or we would all be puppets. Because people write to me and say, well, this is happening. Why is God allowing this to happen? It's like, well, God's not really allowing it to happen, but he had to stand back when Adam and Eve were messing up in the Garden of Eden. So he said, he gave man dominion over animals, plants, whatever.
And the knowledge of good and evil.
All right. So what are we going to be? Puppets? We can't be puppets.
He gave us the choice, and we're making bad choices. But it's like they say in Afghanistan, it's like if the kids are riding on the roof of the car and they get smashed over by the bridge because they don't have seatbelts on or something, they'll say, oh, it's God willing. And it's kind of the sense of predestination. Oh, it's all thought out already. And that takes away your free will. Like, that's why my mom is always like, oh, it's meant to be. Meant to be, that kind of, for me, takes away the chance of it could be different. Right? Yeah, it is really interesting. And that's what I don't like about psychiatry, because them saying, oh, she's bipolar, she's just going to get worse and worse until we drug her, there's no cure. Oh, she's a narcissist, there's no cure, it's hopeless. Wow, I'm hopeless? Like, really? I don't know. And okay, here's the thing about the narcissist stuff. My parents are both pretty narcissistic. They both are very good looking people. Very successful people. I grew up being always told I was great and better than others around me. I went to college and people were like, you're arrogant, it's annoying, and so then when I lost my kids and tumbled from space, they called me bipolar. And bipolar they treat with drugs, and a narcissist personality disorder they don't. So I told my doctor I'd rather have the narcissist personality disorder because I don't want to take the drugs. Oh, but here's the thing. I've been smoking marijuana since 1987. And my husband said, oh, I'll put you back to work so fast your head will spin. And the criminalization of marijuana. Okay, that's the thing. Happy 420, everybody. I totally forgot. I'm Krissy Smith. I'm like a hippie. All right. So half of the parents that don't have their kids in foster care, it's because of marijuana, Mary Ann. It's a real crisis. Making marijuana illegal has put so many parents in jail, has caused so many people to be able to blackmail other people for a little silly thing like that. You know,
Mhm.
and a lot, kids do not care if their parents smoke marijuana. They rather have their parents, to be honest. And
Mhm.
marijuana doesn't make anyone more violent. It's not like alcohol where you know, start beating the kids after it. It's
Mhm.
absolutely criminal that they've criminalized marijuana. And it makes me upset that I had to go and say that I have anxiety because marijuana is illegal. For them to say I have an anxiety disorder, for them to prescribe something, you know, and then say it's a drug when it grows as a plant. And then they won't let me smoke it, even though that's how I prefer to do it because I'm an old hippie.
Mhm.
But I can smoke cigarettes that'll kill me, but I can't smoke marijuana, even though marijuana has never been proven to have lung cancer. So why, as a nurse, how does any of that make any sense to you, Marianne?
It just doesn't make sense. I mean, like even with the tobacco plant, you know, God created the tobacco plant. God created the marijuana plant, you know? Um, and then they legalized.
But did God create crack and dump it in LA? Or is that the CIA? Oh wait, that's the CIA.
Yeah.
Did God create the CIA?
Have you seen that movie Kill the Messenger or Don't Kill the Messenger?
Oh, that no, I like that better. Don't kill the messenger.
Don't
I
Kill
know
the
I have to see that
Messenger.
because I'm a big whistleblower and I'm kind of getting scared. Like Snowden's my hero. Okay, kill the messenger. I have to see this.
Or it's Don't Kill the but I think it's Kill the Messenger. It's on Netflix.
Okay. Well, anyway, but there's other people listening. I keep forgetting. Okay, I do have something else to say. I am really involved in cryptocurrency and blockchain projects in space, and I recently purchased a lot of cryptocurrency domains on like the Zilqua and Ethereum network, and I have these open for altruistic collaboration. So these are like websites that'll be uncensorable, and they can be portals to receive payments for like a nonprofit. And I have them in different groups, and one of the groups is really for reunification purposes. And when I
Mhm.
think of reunification, what I would like is number one, some kind of global bulletin board where parents could put notes or letters or a way to communicate with a child that they're looking for. And then
Mhm.
even possibly have a way for them to put savings or money there that if they pass away, their child can get that.
Mhm.
So that's one of the things. But I'm also looking at ways to make Earth resources banks, blockchain voting, censorship-free news, and community banks, those kinds, and then also victims funds repatriation. So I just bought a ton of blockchain domains because I lived
Mhm.
in San Francisco during the dot-com bubble, and I was just like, nah, these are gonna be worth money. So
Mhm.
we can totally, if we want to like start a reunification camp, because I'd like something like that where see, my daughter's 15 and I barely know her, and I'd love to be at a camp where everyone else has a daughter 12 to 17 and we're canoeing and ping pong and this, and it's not awkward, because what's affecting our children is the fact that they think they're the only ones, and they can't imagine how this can't be like their fault or our fault. They can't imagine that the reason that their family is shredded is the greed of these judges who have
Mhm.
vacation homes and are shipping their money out of the country to their daughters in Europe. And I feel bad they're dying of cancer. And I hope she gets better because then she can pay restitutions for her crimes.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, don't forget they're also going to Disney 6 times a year as well on our dime.
Which one was that?
Oh, any of them. You know?
Well, here's the other thing. Okay, the Pennsylvania Teachers Fund just got caught, and I saw this years ago. They're not even supposed to have land in their pension fund, but they were investing with Trump and Saudi Arabia, and it all just tanked on them. And now they've got to pay more into their pension funds. And here it is. And when I was working at Rainbow Elementary, the principal, Maria Stouffer, told me this is a business. When I was talking to some parents, like, it's a business, and they're in the business of taking your kids away because they don't care who has your kids. They make money whether the grandparents have the kids or one parent has the kid or two parents have the kids. They're just so freaked out when there's one parent that they're afraid they're going to get hurt, and they overreact, and
Mhm.
they're scared.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so, and that's the thing, like, um they need to educate the schools and find some kind of coordination. Like, each school needs to have a person that is like the non-custodial parent coordinator, where a non-custodial parent can actually call in and talk to somebody instead of them having the police be called on that person, because that kind of and I hate to say the word triggered because they'll probably say that I'm a risk to myself or others, but I'm like, I mean, emotionally trigger people by like saying, you know, you can't come to your kid's graduation. You don't get to know your kid's grades, even though everyone else in the school does. So instead of saying you're the second parent and you have less rights than the first parent, they're basically saying you have less rights than anyone else because anyone else has contact with your kids and you can't even see them alone. I mean, I could only see my kids with supervised visitors. Were you ever under the supervised visitation?
Yeah, they tried that. But then the people that were supposed to supervise didn't want to do it anymore. And then I didn't get to see my kids all summer.
Yeah, my dad would never sign the accountability form, but of course my attorneys never gave me the accountability form. Okay, here's what I have to do. I have to shout out the attorneys that I have put complaints in the disciplinary council. Like the disciplinary council lady made it very clear that if I say these attorneys, she won't pursue it anymore, but she's been defending them anyway, so I don't care. Okay, so I have complaints in on my first attorney, Penelope Boyd, who never even talked to my psychiatrist, but now she says the psychiatrist said that I would be a danger to my children, which that's not what she wrote. So I can't imagine she would have said that to someone she never called. But Walter Eels was my second attorney. He tried to put me in a sane asylum in his office. And I didn't find out till I fired him and fired the next attorney, got the memo. Irene Levy, Julie Manzer was my third attorney, even though I wrote that my dad was going to lie about the Smith Family Trust and he lied in the psych report, made me sound crazy. And then when I tried to correct her, she told me not to distribute the thing. And she silenced me. And then she made me hire a psychologist that didn't help me. That was crazy. So Julie Manzer is going to the state Supreme Court in front of that in June. And then number 4 was, I don't even know. I had Lynn Schneider, Irene Levy. I had, and then I had Cheryl Rentz. And Cheryl Rentz was the worst. When I fired her, she literally was working on a Slice the Pie CLE luncheon. And she had little forms like what to do if your client is mentally ill. And she charged me $900 to talk to my husband's divorce attorney. And all she told me about that conversation is that Karen Reynolds thinks I'm the worst mom she's ever seen. I paid $900 for that. I paid $900 for that.
I'm so sorry.
No,
oh my God.
Yeah, I think I might get the money back though, because in June she's going to the state Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. And also I said, my daughter's had Lyme disease. I don't want her to have the HPV vaccine. Wouldn't help me with that at all. And that was when my dad said, hey, I'll say you can drive the kids. And she called my dad and he's like, oh, I'm at the ski lodge. Do whatever you want. Like, I mean, it was crazy. Oh, and then she didn't even tell me they had the police report. No, Cheryl Rentz is a nightmare. I went actually out of county to Montgomery County and hired a Jewish woman because I thought, I'll be far away from Chester County and she's not Catholic. I was so beyond wrong. She was also, do you know who Tamara Sweeney is from Love Dominates?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay, Cheryl Rentz was her husband's attorney that stole her house and like totally like diluted it. And I don't know. But Cheryl Rentz is rough. And I couldn't believe it. When she came to court, she came to court late, didn't look me in the eye. It was working with them, not with me. I had to defend myself against my own attorney, I felt. And that was the time where I put a seal on my file just so they'd let me out of there. I was like, just seal the file. And they were like, okay, let's seal the file. And I'm thinking, you guys think we're sealing the file. I'm just making it so I'm the only one with a copy.
Yeah, isn't it something else?
It's really interesting. And that's why blockchain has to be used, because the way they're owning us is the secrecy and the fact that everyone has a little shame because they think they're the only one.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I do want to make a shout out to your husband, because I want to say, didn't he support you in writing your book so you could get that out to help save everybody?
Yes, I have to thank my husband, Daryl.
Yes, we all thank you, Daryl. Dads too, moms too. And see, that's where a dad supported a mom. So that's why we're all together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're all together in this. And when I told him about, I think this book has to be written because it just eats at you, even though I don't want to write it, but I did. And it was published by Triumph Press. But yeah, I give him a lot of credit because it's just very difficult when you're under stress. Then you're under stress writing a book. I can't explain it.
But it helps put it behind you, because like for me, having the Erasing Family movie makes it so easier for me to explain, because now I literally can hand people a brochure instead of telling my personal story, and it's just so just validating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to share the same here. This Irene Levy, who I'm taking to court, she's being represented by Kane Pugh Knoll Train Kramer, this guy Paul Troy, and they literally, this is what they wrote about me. By way of background, Miss Smith's mental illness has been a significant issue throughout the custody proceedings. She has staunchly refused to treat with medication and at times has been considered a danger to both her children and to herself. That's actually not true. There's this, and then it says down here, one time Mrs. Levy's involvement, she told Darlington school officials she would drive her car into a tree with her youngest child inside. It actually says, but she said the youngest child would never be inside because my friend, the gym teacher, wrote that. And so that's a lie. So she's basically trying to make me sound like I'm going to murder my kid.
How terrible.
And that's my own attorney. All right. So besides murdering my own child, since the party's separation, she has had limited interaction with her teenage children. Mrs. Smith has been noted by multiple professionals to suffer from paranoia and delusional thoughts. All right. The only time I've ever been told I was delusional is I went to my one psychiatrist once and I said, I want to go to Denver and get a prescription for marijuana. It's legal there. And she wrote I was delusional because of that. And then she wanted to put me back on Lamictal. And otherwise, there's no other thing ever where I'm delusional, except when I asked. And like, is it really delusional when I could have driven to Philadelphia, got an airplane and flown there? I don't know. It seems like it could have been possible. I did drive to Montana the next year, like by Colorado. Like it's not delusional. Anyway, I have my marijuana card now. It's 2 years later. I mean, if it was that delusional, how did it happen here that quick? Oh, it's recreational in New Jersey. Am I only delusional in Pennsylvania? Because that's what I'm starting to think. Maybe I'm only mentally ill in Pennsylvania.
Good point.
And it could only be Chester County.
And how many other parents are they doing this to?
Well, and that's what they figured out in St. Louis. They figured out that the amount of parents that are mentally ill in that St. Louis courthouse where the 31 judges had to recuse themselves was statistically improbable. And of course it's statistically improbable because psychiatry is a cult and they're all made up. But anyway, so then I want to read more of this. Despite these diagnoses, she has publicly expressed her skepticism in the field of psychiatry, referring to herself as a psychiatric survivor. And that's where I refer to Krissy Smith, my movie thingy. And then it says, her illness has manifested itself into a belief by Mrs. Smith that the family court system, her own family and professionals she's worked with, have all conspired to keep her children away from her. Her distrust of the family court system can be seen in her involvement in the Erasing Family documentary project released in 2019. The Erasing Family film posits that divorce, separation, and custody proceedings are all designed to remove parents from the lives of their children. Mrs. Smith is listed as an associate star producer on the Erasing Family website. They just advertised the movie.
Well, hey, nothing like
that's
bad
a really
publicity.
good manifestation of a mental illness. If everybody had a nonprofit documentary with a social impact theme from a mental illness, I think the world would be saved really quick. Maybe your book was from a mental illness. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So wait, what's the subtitle of your book again? Why the kids was not enough? Why was taking the kids not enough? Because they had to drain all your money and throw you in jail too?
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, because there was an evening where the kids just wanted to sleep overnight from Sunday to Monday. And I said, let your father know you want to stay over and I'll drive you to school in the morning and then you can take the bus back to him. See if he'll go for that. I didn't think it was going to turn into a federal case, but
literally.
So then I hear, like how people yell so loud over a cell phone, you can hear them.
Yeah.
He tells my son, if you don't come home tonight, I'm going to put your mother in jail and you'll never see her again.
Oh my God.
And if that doesn't scare a 15 to 16-year-old, I don't know what will. But see, that's
not
the
coercive control. No, that's literally coercive control. That's like threat, and that's what they did to me. My dad, they were like, we're going to take these drugs or we'll put you in an insane asylum and you won't see your kids. And they're like, you didn't have to take the drugs. And I'm like, but you said I'd go to an insane asylum, I wouldn't get to pick the drug and I couldn't see my kids. What do you mean I didn't have to take the drugs? It's like, it's coercion. We have to change people's view of because your son literally, his choice was to incarcerate his mother or not. I mean, that is literally torturing his kid.
And that's emotional child abuse.
Exactly.
But it's okay if they do it, but they can make up false allegations on you doing it and it's okay. Also throwing in the mental health card.
But that just goes to show you how the psychiatry is used as a political advice to usually to like approve things already done. So they already made the decisions. They're just justifying it with these mental illness shit, you know? What else did I was just trying to think, like, I just want to make a shout out to Ginger in the movie, because I just want to say, like, she's now at the National Parenting Organization, and they're really organizing the legislative push for shared parenting. And Kentucky moved to shared parenting, and domestic violence and murders and suicides and all of that dropped. And I want any politician, any attorney, any legislator, you got to know you are going to be held accountable next year. Everyone is going to take a side on this issue, and everyone's going to take the side of the parents and the kids, and no one's going to take the sides of the divorce attorneys. And as stuff gets more and more out and transparent, the earlier you are the rat jumping that ship, swim like a little attorney rat, and quit blaming the parents. Like, all these attorneys come out and tell us how the parents are fighting. We're not making any money off of this. You guys are. I am sick of this whole. That's why I don't like the parental alienation, because I feel like the terms we pick are so important. Like, you know, if we're going to call someone a minority and all of that, we've learned that recently. And calling it parental alienation blames the parent. Calling it, you know, family court bond obstruction puts the blame back on family court. And even though it's not always family court, sometimes it's the threat of family court. You know what I mean? So it's like, I mean, some people are so scared to be in family court that they're in toxic relationships because they know they'd lose their court because they know it's set up crooked.
I kind of like that family court bond obstruction.
Well, and that's why Ginger did this, to sidestep that problem. Because even her thing says, in the absence of confirmed neglect or abuse, children have the right to a relationship with both parents. If they're losing a parent, 70% suffer depression, 35 drugs, 50% are alienated from their own children. And here's the thing. We want this movie to be seen by clergy, politicians, lawyers, and judges. This movie is appropriate for everyone, from educators to judges to people at daycares. Everybody can watch this movie. It's 3 young adults at different ages showing, you know, what it's like to try to reunite with a parent that, you know, was taken away based on false allegations or taken away based on nothing. So, but she does use the family. Oh, here's the Erasing Family documentary investigates family bond obstruction from multiple perspectives. So, and for me, the perspective is so much the alienation was caused by my parents, and then and then my sister and brother won't talk to me because my parents fed them stuff, that it's like, it's not always the dad. I mean, and like in your case, it's the spouse or the significant other, or in Andrew's case, it's a stepmom. And Andrew Faulkner, I wonder, do we know the latest with the reach out to his brother? Because I know he's so passionate about it because, you know, he lost his brother to his stepmother's alienation tactics. And I know, like, you know, he is such a powerful voice for the youth, because I just want to say, like, the youth see this and understand this. When we talk to women our age, we're still trying to convince them this exists and we're not crazy. But when you talk to people Andrew's age and younger, they've had enough friends that they're ready to be enlisted in fixing it rather than being convincing. And I think if we're going to focus our time and energy, forget the adults in the room. I'm really on LinkedIn focusing on these young adults who are very politically active, who I think are going to be taking over the world by blockchain. And I don't think we're going to need politicians very long, because if we can all read what the laws are and vote on our computers, we don't need a lot of people stealing our money, you know, traveling on junkets, really, grabbing pussies or whatever they do.
Yeah. It's just, yeah, I mean, when I interviewed him, I'm trying to think.
Trump? You mean Trump?
Oh, no. Yeah. Yeah. No. I think he said he was texting his brother.
Oh, I hope so. Andrew's brother, we love you. Yeah. And my son's 17 and not talking to me, so we understand and we don't blame you. It's very hard.
Oh, it's hard on so many parents. And
yeah, and I would like to shout out really quick to my kids, because I have like a 15-year-old daughter who, she's been amazing. She's kept in touch throughout, you know, we've kept a thread of relationship. And then my oldest has been a major warrior for me. He turned 18 and, you know, helped me write an affidavit, has released his medical records, and you know, he says they have no right to gag you. He's like, you have your right to free speech, and that gag order that judge did, that doesn't count for him. So I'm very proud of him. And my son also wrote a paper on the California genocide, which shows he's not like a white supremacist like my family. I did have a cousin who shot himself in the head who's a neo-Nazi, and my dad's papers were found on there. And my dad does have like, my dad said he was a white supremacist in a text yesterday. Everyone's like, how do you know? And I'm like, because he says when they're black, tell him it's rented. I mean, how do you know your dad's a white supremacist? You know, how do you not know? I don't know. So, I mean, so that's been really, really hard because I feel like when I told Judge Bogus my dad was a white supremacist and he put the gag order on me, I felt like he was gagging me for speaking out against white supremacy, and I will not be silenced. And I'm really excited that with blockchain and the Steemit platform, because I've been silenced off of Facebook, I've been silenced off of LinkedIn, I've had my gag orders, I've had, you know, they don't even want you to say you're not crazy. They want you to be sick. It's just oh, that's why we have to talk about Surrender Malhan. We have another great one of our warriors in the shared parenting arena is Surrender Malhan, and I might be saying his name wrong, but he's this amazing man who was in the Indian Army, and he has children in New Jersey, and his wife was with the Russian mob or something. Anyway, there's a judge that is sending the state police to his house, and his son said he was suicidal, and that's why they took him away. And I just want to say that that's what they do. They'll say that your children say the word. So, and he knows his son never said that, but they'll make it so your child's the one that ended it for you. And that's what they did for him. And for me, they made my middle son say, she's not cyberbullying, it's more a catalyst for real bullying. And that's about the whole boy being drugged by the parents thing. And my son was basically saying I wasn't cyberbullying, but they take one little phrase and twist it into their thing. And with you, it was the same thing. Like, how did they twist it to psychological abuse, which is something that's so beyond subjective, right? Like, I mean, obviously, anybody could be used of psychological abuse, whoever speaks to anybody else, almost. It seems like a very, I don't know how you would do that. I mean, I get it, but it's like, in the situation it's out, and a visceral divorce thing, you should be suspect of that. It's horrible that you got snatched up into that CBS nightmare.
Oh, it was a nightmare. Your audio is kind of off. Your audio went kind of.
Really, Mel?
A little bit.
You can still not hear it?
It's kind of tinny.
Should we end?
We don't have to end. I mean, like, are you able to hold your phone to? Because maybe that's what did it.
Well, no, I don't think anything
That's
did it.
perfect. That's perfect right now.
Okay. So I'm trying to think of what other topics. So Surrender Mahon is he has gag orders on him, and when he took the judges are angry at the gag order, and then also the gag order is illegal in Massachusetts.
It's doing it again. It's doing it again. Oh, no. Are you
I'm just in a normal spot.
Oh, maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe it's the
I think you should cut it off and maybe we're done. Can it be short?
If you want to, do you want to?
Well, it's skinny. I mean, what are we gonna do? You know?
Well, how can people reach you if they want to call you?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm on LinkedIn is the best way, actually. Kristine with a K, last name Smith is really good. Anybody who reaches to you, but also these websites that I just bought, they're going to be up soon, and then I'll have a website, but I don't have anything now. Because I'm going to court with all these things, and I'm kind of living in hiding anyway. But, you know, going to either Ginger Racing Family or Juliet Farley for my article. I have an article up. I guess, yeah, LinkedIn's the best way, or Facebook.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. I just want to say, like, the dads, it has been so unfair for so long for you guys. We know you have suffered. We understand, but we're going to fight together and get this fixed. And as long as we just stand side by side, we're going to get this done this year. I think once we get a few more of these states, once these politicians see that they're going to pick between right and wrong, and it's so obvious, I really think we've just got to stand together, and we've got this. And Marianne, thanks for all your work, and you know, and sharing the men's stories too. And men are abused, men are beaten up by women. I mean, men suffer, and yeah, so lifting them up too.
Definitely. I'm so glad to have you on, and I'll probably have you back on again as a return if you
Yes,
want.
after June, I do all these hearings and straight. So I'll let people know how those complaints went and what that's worth filing all those. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. Don't go anywhere. I'm just going to read the outro, okay?
Great.
Okay, Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in the family courtrooms that in turn perpetuate parental alienation or family court bond obstruction. And I'm your host, Marianne Petrie, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. Join us again with Krissy and other guests. And thank you so much, Krissy.
Thank you so much, Marianne.